So in this tutorial, PHP and MySQL CRUD application, we have been able now to create a complete CRUD application where we were able to retrieve data from a MySQL database. In this example, we are retrieving different books and present it on a PHP web page inside an HTML table. And then we have added functionality for creating new book by clicking this button. Then this web page pops up where you are able to enter title, author and topic for a new book and click save. And when we click save, that new book will be created in the database and presented here in this updated book list. If you want to delete information, we can click on the if you want to update information, we can click on this update book button. And then this new web page pops up where we can edit or change the title, author or topic for one of the selected books. And then we click save here. That updated information will be updated to the database and presented here in the updated list of available books. Finally, you have also created a delete book button, and when you click on that button, the selected book will be entirely deleted from the database. So basically this is a complete and fully working PHP MySQL CRUD web application, but of course there are lots of improvements and adjusting to be made to make this web application even more user-friendly, more intuitive, more secure, etc. So here I present a list of suggested improvements. I will not create these improvements in this tutorial, so I leave it up to you to create some of these improvements in your PHP MySQL CRUD web application. Some improvements can be done in the database structure. You can create more tables and more relations. You can create and use views, store procedures, etc. Typically, here we have, in this basic example, we have just created one single table for the title, author, topic, everything. Typically, you want to split into multiple tables where you have a separate table for the author, etc. So that's one improvement, to improve the database structure with more tables and more functionality. Another improvement, if that you want to delete one of the book. So far, when I click on this book will be created from the database without any warning. So typically you want to ask the user, do you really want to update this book before you actually delete it from the database? In order to do that, you can create a JavaScript pop-up window so when you click on this button, you can have a pop-up window created in JavaScript where it says, do you really want to delete this book? Yes, no. And if you click yes, you will delete it from the database. If no, you just go back to the web page. You should typically improve some security. You can use one or more of the built-in features in PHP to add a more secured web application. You can add a login functionality. That means that you can that the user needs to log in to the application before he can start using the application. In general, you can improve the code quality and the structure. You can make more use of classes, functions, etc. because PHP supports object-oriented programming, so you can use classes, functions, etc. And you can of course improve the robustness and error handling. If something gets wrong in this application, you will get a pretty messy message with some SQL information, but typically the normal user for such an application doesn't know anything about SQL, so typically you should make more user-friendly error messages, etc. For the user. And also in general, this is a basic web application. I have used some Bootstrap to improve the graphical user interface, but of course you can make the application even more user-friendly and intuitive, and improve the graphical user interface and layout in general. And of course you can add much more features and functionality to this basic application. But I guess this simple CRUD application is a great starting point for creating your own CRUD applications, because in this tutorial you have learned how to retrieve data, insert data, update data, and delete data, and create some basic graphical user interfaces for these different features. Here is an example how you can use JavaScript to create a pop-up window. So before I click on this delete button, I want the user to get a message: do you really want to delete this book? And then I can create and use that functionality using JavaScript. So here in the delete button I can use this JavaScript colon, and then here specify a name of a JavaScript function, in this case delete book, and then you can specify that JavaScript function in another place in the same web page, like this, delete book, and the input should be book ID, and then you can create this message: do you really want to delete this book? And then you can use this confirm, and then you will get a message either OK or cancel. So if you click OK, then you should delete the book. If you click cancel, you should not delete the book. That's an example of adding more robust functionality when it comes to deleting data from the database. You should also add more security to your web application, because PHP has many built-in features for making your apps more secure. For instance, you can use the function HTML special characters like this. So this function is used to convert special characters to HTML entities. So this is very useful when you want to prevent cyber attacks, etc. You can also use other built-in functions like trim and strip slashes to improve the security of your application. Here you see a basic example how you can use some of these built-in functions in PHP. So assuming you are retrieving the title from a HTML form or something by using this post, and before you save this title to the database, you should do some checking of this string that you are retrieving from another web page or the same web page. So then you can, for instance, create a new function in PHP like this. Then first you can use this trim function that is part of PHP. Then you can use this strip slashes. You can use this HTML special characters. And by using all these built-in functions, you will remove all bad characters, etc. from this string here. And then by doing this, it's more safe to actually save this title to the database to avoid cyber attacks, etc. Another improvement in your PHP web application with CRUD functionality is to use required. If you have an HTML form with different text boxes, some of them may be required, some may be voluntary to fill out, and those text boxes that should be required can be used. For those, you can just use this required property like this. And also you can, if you have a HTML form with many text boxes, typically the first text box in the form should be set to autofocus like this. So then you can just both use autofocus, and for those who should be required, you should use this required property. And so far in this CRUD application, we have only been using this in an HTML form. We have only been using this ordinary text box, but HTML has also lots of other types of boxes or controls that you can use. So in addition to the ordinary text box, you can have a box for numbers. So if you see here, then I use, instead of input type text, I use input type number. And here you can specify the minimum value and the maximum value, as you see an example of here. So if I try to type in a value that is lower than 1 or larger than 10, I will get an error message. Here, if you want to create or log in, create login functionality, you can also use this input type password, and then it's safer for the user to enter a password because you don't see the text that the user enters. You only see these dots. So then make sure to use type equals to password when you are dealing with password. Of course, you can also input text files, etc. Then you have this input type of file, and then you will have this button that you can click on in order to select an existing file on your hard drive. You also have checkboxes, then you have input type checkbox, you have radio buttons, you have range, where you can select a range between a start value and an end value. You have color pickers, where you can select different colors. You have date pickers, you have time pickers, or date time pickers, etc. So you have different options. So make sure to use those specific input types for the different types that you want the user to enter on your web page. You should also be a bit careful when you are using this query string. So assuming you want to delete a book, and then this question mark book ID equals to 39 or something, in order to delete a book, then basically the user can just change the value here in the query string. So instead of book ID equals to 39, he can change it to 41, 51, etc. So basically you should be a bit careful when using query strings and this get method. So if you need to use this get method, you need typically to add some more secure way and add some robustness, like use logging functionality, etc. So in order to avoid that the user can delete other books than he selects from the book list. And also finally, all web applications typically should have a user and login functionality. Here I'll just shortly explain how you can implement it, but this part I will demonstrate in another tutorial. So typically you need to create one or more new database tables that contain the username and password information. Then typically you want to create a new PHP web page, so the user can create a new user information with username, password, etc. And then PHP has built-in functionality where you can use this built-in function in PHP, password underscore hash. This can be used to hash your password before you store it into the database. In that way you are more secure for cyber attacks, etc. Then next you should create a login page where the user are actually logging into the system, where he needs to enter his username and password. And then in order to verify that the password is correct, you can use this built-in function called password verify. So I guess that's all regarding this PHP MySQL CRUD web application. There are lots of improvements that you can make. Here are also some resources and references that I recommend. The V3 School has a PHP tutorial. Also Tutorial Points has a PHP tutorial. And there also are quite good documentation on the PHP homepage. And also, if you want to learn more about MySQL, V3 School has also a MySQL tutorial. So all these resources are highly recommended. So I guess that's all. So good luck with PHP, MySQL, and creating your own CRUD web application from scratch. Thank you and goodbye.